Okay, there we go. Good afternoon, everybody. This is the Community Preservation Committee. It is just 5 o'clock according to the clock here. This meeting will be video recorded and broadcast over local access channel 8 and through the town website at www.eastham-ma.gov. And first, before we start the public part of the presentation, the meeting, I'd just like to welcome Elaine Lipton. She's a new member of our committee. She is replacing Carolyn McPherson on the Affordable Housing Trust. And so I want to thank you for volunteering and for offering to replace Carolyn, who will be missed because she's been with us for a long time. And so I welcome you and look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Carolyn's happy to continue to advise me.
Good. That's good advice.
So we do have a public hearing today. The legal announcements were put in the Provincetown Independent a couple of times, 2 weeks in a row. And there was also an announcement in the Provincetown Independent in the community area. So I'm going to turn it over to Stacy, who's got the PowerPoint that I think Paul originally put together.
My power.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I did have to adapt it because we had some changes with the.
Yeah.
But as part of the state CPA requirements, each town has to have an annual public hearing. So this is ours. And here's a presentation. It gives the public a chance to learn more about the CPA, the CPC, and hopefully get some input from the public on projects that they would like to see or that they've been hearing about in the community. So here we go. Just some background information on the Community Preservation Act. It's a state law, MGLC 44B. It was enacted in 2000, and the ECM started, made it bigger. Adopted it in 2005. The CPA can fund projects in 3, Eastham has 4 specific categories: open space, passive recreation, active recreation, historic, and community housing. And the funds are generated through a 3% real estate surcharge on your taxes, and the state also contributes a matching fund, which is comes from the Registry of Deed transactions. Our total appropriations from fiscal year 07 to 25 was $16,470,358. Each town who adopts the CPA has to have a plan, a 5-year plan or an annual plan. Eastham has a 5-year plan, which we just completed last in June. And these are the core values that the committee came up with when they first adopted, and still feel that they are important. That the decisions made for the projects are fair, transparent, effective, collaborative, responsive, and informed. Also part of the 5-year plan are the guiding principles. We worked on these a little bit this year, but pretty much the same. Lead priorities, supporting priorities, planning and community goals, leveraging, and collaborative projects. Collaborative projects are what we're really hoping that the projects that the community and the committees come in with. They use multiple funding sources, open space and housing, or housing and active recreation, something that we can combine the two more than one category. And these are all, the 5-year plan is available on the website. If you go to the Town of Eastham website and then under the committees, click on the Community Preservation Committee, there's a link to the guiding, to the 5-year plan. So the goals of the committee are community housing. The committee, when they worked on the current 5-year plan, really felt that community housing is one of the key areas that we need to support. Along with historic preservation, open space, passive rec, and active recreation. Who decides how the funds are spent? The committee works together, and when a project comes in, the committee reviews the project and then recommends that it be presented in the warrant for town meeting. So it's not the committee that ultimately decides, it's the taxpayers. They go to town meeting and then they can vote on the warrant article. Five-year plan. So we just adopted the new 5-year plan for fiscal year 25 through 29. It laid out the spending policies, overall priorities, and goals for each CPA funding category. The plan is based on community feedback and an examination of community preservation resources, needs, and possibilities. We had a community event in February and had asked the community to come in and not vote, but vote on what they felt were the most important categories for the town. And again, that's where the housing was voted number 1. Application and funding process. The CPC accepts applications for funding on an annual basis, and that starts today. So anyone who has an idea or a possible project, they can go onto the website and download a copy of the application. If they're not able to do that, they can stop by and see me and I'll make a copy for them and help them fill out the application. And the deadline for submitting your applications is the last Wednesday in October. That gives me a little bit of time to put the packages together for the committee and then start the review process.
And Stacey, I just want to add that that's the October 30th.
30th this year, yes.
October
Yep,
30th.
Yep.
For this year.
So the CPC considers each funding application based on the merits of the project and how well it aligns with the 5-year plan, the core values, guiding principles, as well as the available funding balance that we have in the budget. And the CPA developed application guidelines with evaluation criteria. New this year, we have like a rubric or a matrix that will help applicants fill out the application completely and with the best chance of getting it all together on time. So, well, that should have been all capitals. So the CPA, the state requirements are 10% for each funding category. So 10% for housing, 10% for historic, 10% for open space, 10% for active recreation, and 5% for administrative. Everything else would go into the unreserved category. And the town of Eastham this year decided in our 5-year plan that we would reserve 30% for housing. So when housing projects come in the future, there'll be monies available to fund those more readily. And we're sticking with the 10% for the other categories, open space, active rec, historic. Go ahead.
Yeah, and just so public, anyone watching this understands, the unreserved still have to fit into those other categories,
Yes.
but they can be shifted around, and that's often how we pay for something that needs more than what's in the
Reserve.
restricted fund, and we've done that numerous times. But with the community housing needs so great, we really want to be ready.
Absolutely.
That's
Yep.
why that vote was
Yeah.
made, so.
So, historic, for example, we've had a lot of large historic projects, in the recent past. So we didn't have the full amount in our 10% reserved, fund. So that's where we used the unreserved monies to make up the difference. And it says, spent or reserved, so that's important. So if there's no active recreation projects for this year, we still have to put the 10% into reserves, for future use. How do you know if your project is eligible? The CPA Coalition in Boston is a resource that we frequently use, and they put together this little graph. So for open space, you can acquire open space, create it, preserve it. You cannot support it or rehabilitate it. Historic, you can acquire it, you cannot create it, you can preserve it, you cannot support it, but you can rehabilitate and or restore. Recreation, you can acquire, create, preserve, cannot support, but you can rehabilitate and or restore. And for housing, you can acquire, create, preserve, support, but cannot rehabilitate or restore unless the house or was purchased with CPA money. Yeah.
Just, could you clarify a little bit what support means? My understanding is like management,
Yes.
ongoing management is
Right.
what that
Yeah,
support
that-
category
yes,
means,
yes,
so,
yes.
okay.
So here's the application information, the deadline, October 30th. The funding guidelines are again available online, and anyone wishing to apply for funds, put in an application, I encourage you to use the 5-year plan. There's a lot of good information in there about what your project can and cannot have, and the application matrix at the end. But I'm always happy to help, and Paul is around. He's a great resource. He's been doing this for a very long time. So together we can help you out. And I'm gonna ask Joanna to speak about this project that Stowe had.
Okay, yeah, this is Stowe, Massachusetts, not the ski resort. This was an amazing example, and it's still sort of underway of a small town that really needed housing and also wants to protect forest and their water supply and air quality. And the town and multiple other entities, conservation entities, the local land trusts, started talking to the owner of I think it was 120 something acres that had a small golf course, a community. It was a big property that was going to move on to something else. And the owners had already been talking to a developer about what would happen. And fortunately, they were able to start talking, all these groups started talking with the owner and the developer several years before it had to be moved on. And they came up with this just amazing collaboration to do a little of everything on this large property, protect their, I believe part of it is still, I don't know if they kept any of the golfing part, but part of it is still active recreation. Part of it is protecting forest, and there's some affordable housing units being built. They may be done by this time, but it was a major group effort, and they were able to tap funds from their CPA in multiple categories and other fundraising. So we don't have pieces of land quite that big, but there are a few places in Easton where something like that in the future might come up, and we can really, this is one resource where collaborating might do something similar, where we can work together to preserve some forest and housing and get it developed and used for with many of these goals, working together.
So that's all I have.
Okay. I just want to add a couple of comments. Number one, the Community Preservation Committee did have a booth at the Windmill Weekend this past weekend. And Mark stopped by, and I want to thank Stacy for stopping by, and she brought the chairs and the table and all of the equipment and some brochures and spent the day there. And we had quite a few people that stopped by to chat and ask questions, and we provided some information. And I just wondered what people's thoughts are on whether we should do that again. I think it was very helpful. We started it, the first time we did it was last year. We'd never done anything like that before. And I thought it was well worth it. And we held this meeting over till today because of the Windmill Weekend on Saturday instead of holding our normal meeting last week. So, and you were also at Windmill Weekend. I think I saw you. Yeah,
I said hello to you.
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
So
right.
what was your sense of the people who stopped by with questions? Were they visitors, or were there some?
There
people who-
were people that were full-time residents. There were
But-
people that were part-time residents. There were people that were visiting from off Cape for the
Mhm.
weekend. I didn't get any negative comments. I got some positive comments from people saying they thought it was a good idea. I've got some comments from people that did not understand or realize that they're even paying the 3% surcharge. I think, and I started thinking about, I look at my tax bill and I have the taxes and the 3%, and they add it on the total and divide by 2, and that's what I owe twice a year. Now, there are obviously people in town that are paying a rent. And so they're probably not getting a tax bill per se. Somebody else is paying the taxes and they're just paying the rent. So they may not see the 3% that's been presented to them there because of the way they're paying for their housing. But I felt that it was, in general, it was a very positive, maybe Stacy can comment. She was there the whole time too.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I liked speaking with the people, and no, everyone was very supportive.
Mhm.
Even saying that we should be contributing more to the CPA, which was nice to hear. But yeah, it was nice to be able to inform people about the taxes, because a lot of people were like, oh, I didn't realize that. And
Well,
so-
if they want to pay more and they're Eastham taxpayers,
They can, but the
they
community fund.
can put money in, and that leveraging term on that, when the project comes up,
right.
they could donate. They couldn't, I don't legally can't put it into the CPA
Yeah, right,
fund,
right.
but
They could
Yeah, yeah,
donate.
they
to
can
right.
certainly donate to the project, which I know right now the wing on the Schoolhouse Museum is still fundraising for that addition. So there are plenty of ways to contribute.
And the community fund was passed by
Yeah.
the legislature. And so that's an option for people to give monies as well. And that would be not CPA, but more general. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Dave?
I had a question about what the state contributes
Mhm,
back to
sure.
us. Because it seems to be all over the
Yeah,
place.
well, and I can explain, it has to do with the registry of deeds. And of course, during the COVID, a lot of people were buying and selling homes. And so the payments for the registry of deeds went up and it became large. Then the interest rates went up and people stopped buying homes. And so the monies from the registry of deeds declined. And we see 2 years ago, I think we took in $451,000 in
Match from the state.
matching monies. But I have to say that last year, we only took in 250, I think it was 258,000. But 2 years ago, the legislature, because the Registry of Deeds was having some problems, they authorized an additional 20 million. And that was allocated the same way the Registry of Deeds monies were allocated. But it was an additional 20 million because of the decline in the Registry of Deeds. So,
So
Yeah.
it'll jump
you know,
around.
so, and they're telling us already that they're not expecting to have a large amount available this year either, because again, the interest rates are still high, and so there aren't a lot of people selling and buying.
Right.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and there's another reason. The, the Registry of Deeds sends the money in every, on a yearly basis, but the state has to vote on this every year,
Mm.
And, they don't have to give you the same amount every year that they did, percentage wise,
Mhm.
they vote. And it depends on the health of the, state
Economy,
budget.
yeah. Right.
Big issue in terms of that.
Thank you for the explanation.
Oh, and there's one other. It's one pool. So as towns join
Oh,
the
yes, yeah.
program,
Right. The
Would
money.
you-
share of
would you-
spread out
existing
more.
members that are taking this money
Mhm.
goes down.
Yeah.
Right, right.
So if towns vote to join the program, the money that Eastham gets will be less as they
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
distribute the entire pot. That's the other way it can go down.
And I'd just like to add what Dan said is that obviously some of the towns, I would say probably almost all of the towns are bigger than us.
Yeah.
And so because they're bigger than us, the taxes that they pay, real estate taxes that a town takes in is much higher than ours. And so it's based on the amount of taxes that are paid.
Right.
And so if
3%.
if you get a Boston, a Cambridge, a large place like that, then it's going to really affect the amount that we would get or that everybody gets, but
I think, Stacy, do you know, every town on the Cape, I believe, is a participant in CPA,
Yes.
which is amazing.
There's
A-
196 towns
Yeah,
in the
right,
state
right.
that participate.
Out of 300.
300,
Yeah,
there are
yeah.
306.
306 have voted to enact it, but only 196 have enacted it.
And there are
Okay.
351 towns in the
Yeah.
state of Massachusetts.
Yeah. So,
And not everyone elects to do the 3%
Right, that's
surcharge.
true, that's
You
true
can
too.
go from 5% or, I'm sorry, 50% up to 3%. So there's a
Mhm.
whole,
5 to 3.
3% is the largest.
Mhm. Right.
78 towns do 3%.
Mhm.
And 55 towns do 1%.
Mm. Yeah. Do you have any
Okay.
questions, Francis?
No, it was fascinating to hear some of the things that I hadn't picked up before.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was going to say that in talking to people around town, there's a lot of people have no idea about this organization.
I agree with you.
It's not alone.
Right.
It's not a what I.
It's not alone in that.
Oh, oh, oh.
Well,
oh.
even looking at the tax bill, people just sort of like, that's just my tax.
Mm.
And it's not exact, that part of it is in fact, if you're itemizing, isn't part of like your real estate tax.
Right, right.
It's
Additional.
additional
3%.
different thing.
Yeah.
So,
There was talk about allowing somebody to opt out of that 3% if their income is such that
yes,
they need help.
right.
And I don't know where that stands,
Mhm.
but
I
That-
brought that issue up at our last meeting.
Yeah.
And Brewster has actually passed
Mhm.
a program where low income and some seniors, senior citizens are being allowed to not pay their 3%.
Right.
And I have all of the documentation that Brewster used for their warrant and their articles. Dan and I met with Rich back in June
Right.
to talk to him about if we were to put something in place similar to that. And at that time, and I was going to ask you earlier, at that time, he said that he was going to ask the assessing office to
Right.
do a little research. And
Yeah.
to my knowledge, that hasn't been done yet, but he also has some thoughts on if those monies weren't used for that, they would, I'll let you talk,
Yeah.
used for wastewater.
Several issues here that this group should be aware of. There is a potential that there may be a tapping of part of the 3% for wastewater studies in the town of Eastham. So we potentially may only end up with 2%, with 1% going to wastewater studies and solving wastewater problems in the town of Eastham. That's one issue. The other issue, he said, just to get back to the one on, he wasn't sure how cumbersome it would be for the assessor to come up with a program to give relief on the 3%. He seemed to think it might be very complicated. So he was going to check with the assessor and get back to us. So that's one issue. But the other issue potentially is we may end up with less money coming in the future for all the reasons we just talked about. The state contribution, we may go down to 2%. And the way that it seems to be thinking is that would soften the blow to the taxpayers if they were used to paying 3%. And they still paid 3%, but
Right.
1% went to wastewater
Right.
studies.
Right.
I think that's smart, candidly, and
Mhm.
this committee may end up with less money to be able to allocate. But the fact is that there are a lot of property owners that feel stressed with the 3% and don't want to go higher.
Mhm.
And so the idea of not changing the amount that's taken out every year, but reallocating it may be more palatable to residents than
Would that
adding
have
on
to go to
another
the
wastewater.
legislature to be approved?
No,
No.
they said no.
So,
You have to go
Yeah.
to the town.
The
Yeah.
town has to approve
right.
it.
That
Yeah.
Dave's on a board of assessors and I was for many years. And so ways to give relief have been so limited for income based. It's almost always elderly. It's not young and income based. And so ways to address that, the residential tax exemption is a shotgun. It doesn't target anything. Whereas CPA, everybody pays that. And if people who are of any age, but income stressed for taxes, that would be a great thing for Colleen to pursue and move that for people who need it because it's targeted. The idea of reallocating, especially if you don't have to go to the state legislature for wastewater, benefits everybody.
Right.
So it would, I mean, even though I think, CPA projects are great,
Mhm.
I think that's the reality and would be a good thing to benefit
Right.
everybody.
And one of the reasons I'm bringing it up is if we got into a situation like we've done in the past, where we pre-spend mortgage payments. In other
Yeah.
words, we have taken projects that took several years, many years to pay back with the idea that we would take the money out every successive year. If we go from 3% to 2%, all I'm saying is maybe we're
Just-
going to be a little more conservative, that's all. And not count on future money before, to spend before we get it, so.
Yeah.
And I think this group does have a fiduciary responsibility to be
Mhm.
prudent in that regard, so. We may like to
Janet's with
keep
us.
money, yeah.
Janet's with us.
Janet's with us, that's
Yeah.
great. So we may want to be a little more conservative in the future years as we go
Okay.
down to make sure that everybody gets a fair shake at this money.
Right. I would just, I think we're probably wrapping up the public
Right.
hearing soon, but just before we do wrap that up, pointing out the collaboration among towns, which is terrific too. And as I'm looking at our, the projects we've helped to fund in Orleans for housing projects is and they've done the same.
Mhm.
Those opportunities we still look forward to seeing because people who live and work on the Outer Cape, Orleans is a lot closer than Plymouth.
Yeah.
So we hope we continue to have those opportunities to collaborate
Well,
with.
we do have one
towns.
coming up.
Good.
Yeah.
What was-
And I just
so-
want to comment that at the select board meeting on Monday, the new tax rate was determined. It's going to be $7.71 per thousand versus $7.01 per thousand. The median income, median price of a a home in Eastham is $728,000. It's an increase of close to $700 a year for taxes. And I'm very concerned about young people in town having to pay additional, that's a huge amount of an additional amount over and above what they're been paying.
But
And-
isn't this is the peak water thing
Not-
too?
That's not the peak yet.
It's not even the peak,
No.
but
That's right.
it's the high point. I remember
Yeah.
pointing out to my father when the vote was that how old he would be when this, and he's 92 now.
Good.
And he he hasn't hooked up yet. But yep, he's noticing.
Yeah, yeah.
But-
I'm very concerned
yeah,
about
it's-
trying to keep young families in town
Mhm.
and how they're going to be able to pay the taxes that are going to be coming due. And
And
So-
candidly, old people in town.
yeah, there are many
Who are no
people, many
longer
people
working
in fixed
fixed
incomes,
income, sure.
fixed
Mhm.
incomes. I'm on a fixed income.
Yep.
I've been retired for 25 years. So yeah, it's something that's really concerning me. Are there any other comments or questions, et cetera, on the public hearing part? Okay, thank you very much, Stacy. Yeah. Okay, let me see. Would you like to come and give your presentation, Francis? And instead of keeping you there, and then we can go on to the
Sit in
rest of,
Paul's seat, or you can take
you can sit next to Stacy.
Stacy, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Francis Lewis, and I'm the chair of the Open Space Committee. So, we've had it. Applications in before, and thank you for, all your consideration. Before the meeting, we were talking informally, and on we were telling Mary that one of the applications we did,
Excuse me, is that, yeah,
Am I on?
Yeah, okay.
We did in-house. It was the volunteer monitoring app for the Higgins property. And it was 5,000 something dollars. And
I think it was five.
we need to write a formal letter returning that money
Mhm.
because we were through the staff help. Alex Bates, Paul Lag, and Angela, who's she's an IT person. I forget her last name because I've never met her. But anyway, together they put together a very nice app for us. And it's on the phone now, and we field tested it, and it worked really well. And it has a way to report on all the properties. The Higgins, and then the Sandy Meadow, Nickerson, Cottontail,
Wiley Park, yep.
Wiley Park, and Sandy Meadow, and then the other,
Southeast Dam, yeah.
yes. Yeah, and so we were pleased with it, and that we also had a very good windmill weekend booth, and we were talking about it to people passing by, and we already have 2 people that were very interested and wanted us to, introduce them to the app and want to walk the trails and report back. So that has turned out to be a good project.
So Francis, there is a form, it's called the final report form.
Yep.
And if the open space folk could put that together in the process of returning, saying they're returning
Is
the
is that on your,
5,000.
is it on the website?
It's on-
The
it's
final
online.
report form,
Final
okay.
report.
I wasn't aware of that. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So, this year, and I had sent this in, there is a kiosk we're interested in putting up, particularly at Wiley Park. At the main entrance, when you come in, by the playground, there's a good place to give people information. And then the Herringbrook entrance by the Herring Run, that one too. Okay.
We chose those locations because Wiley Park has, it's so beloved. It has a lot of traffic, a lot of people coming in. And in the past, there's been some issues with boat launching and different misuses of, of the area. So we thought that that would be a good way. We're interested in getting more signage up to help people know that they're entering a conservation area. And these are the
Rules.
behaviors, expected behaviors. And this particular model is used in Orleans and the Orleans Conservation Trust, actually. And Alex used to work for them, Alex Bates, the conservation agent here. So he was familiar using this company with with this kiosk model. And then we reached out to the town of Orleans, and the Orleans town also has these on their properties because it's the same as us. The Orleans Conservation Foundation and then the Orleans Conservation areas owned by the town. And
Putnam
we think
Farms.
they're attractive and the Putnam Farms
Yeah.
where the community garden is right up there. If you're interested in looking at to seeing what one looks like and you walk around there's one right there. And that's actually where I first ran into them and thought about the needs that we're thinking of. We want to get more information out at Wiley Park. So, and as you know, we're working with Shana Brogan and developing a land management plan for Wiley Park to really pull all the areas together, all the different departments, and make it so that we maintain that property, which is so beloved and so beautiful. Okay, so on this, what I have here is a spec sheet on the materials, installation, recommendations. The price is per unit right now is, for the unit we're looking at, the classic Trailhead kiosk, is $3,400 plus shipping. Shipping has to be expensive because it comes from Montpelier, Vermont.
Sorry, it comes from where?
Montpelier, Vermont.
Oh,
So there will be a shipping fee that I hadn't reached out yet. So I don't know that yet. We would have to know it for the when we do the application. And then for the installation, we were brainstorming some ideas at the Open Space Committee that we're hoping to do it with volunteer work. All right, it says 4 strong men, and we know 4 strong men.
not 4 strong women.
Now it says 4 strong men can easily do this, is what they said. So, things like the auger to dig the hole.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe we can get that. We're gonna try to get community support, and maybe donations. So maybe one of the hardware, we haven't reached out yet, but we could borrow get the auger for the day, and dig the 4 posts. And then you need some sand and gravel to fill in the posts. Those kind of things. And we know we can have the 4 strong men. And, and this would be a thing that we will also reach out to DPW, but we know that they are stretched.
Yes, I would say they are.
Very stretched manpower wise, so we were trying to think of a way that we could, make this happen without adding to their schedule.
The other thing you might think about is if the shipping is consequential or significant,
Going up to get it.
have someone go up and get it. I mean, there's lots of people with trailers and
Yeah.
things of that nature.
Well, I think you're looking at some, I moved down from Vermont full time 10 years ago. So I make trips up there, and I go further up, I go to the Burlington. So I pass the Montpelier exit and we have a trailer. This is all working out.
You can replace the 4 strong men.
Men
No, I didn't go that far. I could help with one of the strong men. I was going to volunteer my husband.
Okay.
So there's a very good idea too. As I say, we haven't reached out because we we were brainstorming this at the last meeting
Mhm.
and this is as far as I got. And we have this next month to find out the details.
So you'd be wanting to do two of them?
Two, at both entrances,
Mhm.
because there's a lot of people that come in from Herringbrook. And that's actually where we've had people bringing kayaks in. Because it's not a bad walk down to launching them. And that launching has disturbed Joanna, you can help me, the bottom of the pond where they're sliding it in over the sand, going down to the sand level. So we're disturbing the growth that's natural, the plant life
Right.
that would be natural
Right.
up to the
There-
pond edge.
Right, there's, in Bridge Pond, well, getting off track, but Bridge Pond, which is close there, a lot of people go fishing in that and go out in boats there. And we need to think of, there should be one place they can do that, because if you cut them all off, people will do it wherever. So guiding them into one spot. But that's, again, the kiosk is a great way to, things change. We do signs and then they're out of date. Something like this is amenable to changing with the conditions and the times. So I think it's a great,
Right. There's
great
a,
format.
there's a door on it,
Yeah.
I'm not
I'm
sure if
just
it's
looking at it,
plexiglass or
yeah.
whatever, but, so everything is there and it'll be in one spot. And
Yeah.
it'll be easier for people than, random signs that,
Right.
that they might see or not see.
Can you
So-
see what's in the sign from both sides, or is it just
No,
one side?
no.
Oh, okay, it has to be placed,
To
has
stand
to be
in front,
placed.
it has to
so-
be placed. You stand in front and read it
Okay,
and
okay.
it's solid in the back.
Okay, and the 3,400 that you mentioned, that's for one,
One,
what, so you're talking
So we're
about
doing
six,
those two.
6,008
6,008 plus
installation.
the,
Shipping and installation.
the shipping is
Shipping,
gonna
yeah.
be the big thing. I mean, one thing you need 4 sonotubes and I did price that out. That was easy. They're $20 each. So I mean, that is
Mm,
not a
mm.
big thing. And the installation costs will be manageable, even if we don't get that donation of the.
So
auger.
you're talking about 10,000 or
About,
something like there, maybe,
about.
perhaps.
About, that would be a safe one. And as I say, the shipping is a key component of this application.
Great.
So your open space folk will be putting the required paperwork together to request. Is that the next step for you, or?
Yes, the next step, we left it at the last meeting. We all liked this idea
Mhm.
and we wanted to move forward on it. So this was, I want to come and just get a sense of
Mhm.
Do
how,
they need to get two other quotes?
Yeah,
Usually-
usually we require 3 quotes.
on people that make a kiosk.
Mhm.
All right, but that would take some research because we went with this because Alex had worked with this company.
Mhm.
But I do have a letter from
Maybe the folks in Orleans.
New
also-
Orleans.
al-
I
Also
actually, she
checked with
said
other folks.
we could reach out to her for the names of the vendors
Yeah,
they
yeah.
contacted.
Yeah, you're right.
Here it
yeah,
is right here.
okay.
We secured a vendor for the kiosks and we're happy to share these vendor names.
Mhm.
So
Good,
there's a way right there.
right, exactly.
It's Christina Smith from the Orleans Conservation Town. So, okay, so
Perfect.
you want 3,
Yeah, we prefer to have 3, yeah.
all right, well, we can try that. I think we can get that.
Good.
And some you could probably just get online too from other companies that do
Once we
similar
get,
things.
right, we
Yeah.
can type in that and it
Yeah.
have to be in this New England area.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Right,
Yeah.
right.
yeah. We don't want things being shipped from Wally
No,
Wally.
no.
Yeah.
A lot of heavy stuff, yeah.
Mark,
Yeah.
Mark has a question.
I used to build those. I was a shop teacher. I used
Oh.
to do a lot of that, but the price seemed pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
But you may want to check with Pine Harbors. I know they
This
do
is-
sheds and things, but there's a chance, they have they could probably make some up too. I mean, just a thought.
Right down in
Excuse me?
Hyannis.
Well, yeah,
Right.
they're actually in
Pine Harbor.
Harwich or something.
And
They
the,
have a spot. in
They have a
Hyannis, but-
big spot down near the hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, but I think. they
Willow
pick up in
Street.
Harwich
what
on,
about the Walpole Woodworkers? They're another one.
yeah, they're they're tied in I tried
Okay.
those too. You may try the
Yeah.
book school, but sometimes they have certain things.
Yeah.
They have to follow the curriculum, but
Walpole, what? I didn't hear that.
Walpole Woodworkers, I know they have on the Willow Street on the way into Hyannis, that's.
Pine
the-
Harbors, they're both.
Oh,
Pine
they're
Harbor,
both
yeah.
there? Okay.
And Pine Harbors, I think I know Pine Harbor.
Yeah.
If
Okay,
you're
that's
underway
Willow
on Willow
Street.
Going to
Street,
Trader
going
Joe's,
down-
yeah.
Right, right,
Just
right.
But
up in
I
there.
think their main operation is on like Queen Anne's Road or something in
Harwich, yeah.
Harwich. I had them do a bond for me when I retired down here and I went in there and that's their main. I can't remember exactly where it is, which exit, but it's, I think it's Queen Anne's Road and they have a big warehouse. They reassemble a lot.
You might get Cape Associates to build them for you.
Mhm.
They build
Yeah,
all
true,
the
that's, yeah.
doll
Yes,
houses.
yes,
and
yes.
Stuff like that.
Huh.
That's an excellent idea. They did a number of things for us for the library. Yeah,
Terrific,
All
thank
right.
you.
yeah.
Thank you for the input.
We're a helpful group.
Right, I know.
Is your group also coming in with this Sandy Meadow Open Space Accessible Trail Extension?
That one,
Oh, I
Okay,
haven't
so
seen
where
that.
is that?
That's last year.
Oh, it's last year.
That was-
okay.
yeah, that
I
was
didn't know if
approved.
you,
and where we are on that is our first outreach is to, DPW, because they did the first section of the trail. And Alex is working on contacting Mr. Ruffley from the DPW. And as of the last meeting, he had not had a response. If they get a negative, no, we can't fit it in. Alex has the name of some contractors that would do that same type of
Mhm.
work.
yeah,
So
but
that's the
I guess-
plan
I
on
guess
that.
were they reserved it. Apparently it was applied for last year.
Yeah.
But it, on the top in the heading, that's why I mentioned it, it said project application for fiscal year 25. So I
That's the
don't,
fiscal year that we're in. That's what the projects were approved for this fiscal year.
okay.
So this one is going to
So
be
the next,
20.
we're doing fiscal year
2026.
26 projects
That's
now.
why, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh, yeah, because I did print that off. It says
Yep.
FY,
25.
fiscal year 26. I
Six.
said,
For-
whoa.
Oh,
this-
Yeah.
For this,
Not
yeah.
new
So
application.
this,
yeah.
this one may or
I
may,
know, it's confusing.
this may or may not come back, or is that at this point?
It was approved and we want to go ahead with
All right.
it. So I was just talking about here again, it's the, who's going to actually
gonna
do the
do the work,
physical
yeah.
work.
Okay,
Our first outreach is to DPW.
Yeah, which is,
And then if they cannot do it, time-wise, a private contractor. But I remember at a meeting here that you were very realistic and generous in the amount that you awarded, so that with contractors now, if we have to go that route, we should be in good shape.
But they have to come back to us since if they're gonna go out with contractors, doing it a different way than,
Than they originally
if the
recommended.
application is significantly changed, the answer is yes, if it.
yeah, but I think the application was, we already knew that
We knew.
DPW
We're
was
busy.
unlikely,
I-
and so that's why 80,000. In fact, I think it was a $60,000
Right, yeah.
application,
Right,
we
right.
bumped it up
We upped
because
it,
of,
we- yeah,
We
right.
did. I think that
Likely,
it's covered
yeah.
in the application.
right, so. I
Because
think
we
we're
knew
good.
that the timing was going to be down
Yeah.
the road and therefore more
Karen said she
expensive.
couldn't get quotes from contractors without having a guaranteed funding
Right,
source.
right, it was
So,
the chicken and egg,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
right. So,
Well, we'll look
Good.
forward to your work and what you'll
Yeah,
present
well,
for us.
Thank you for the 3 other choices, and now I know I need 3. Which it says here too. I just hadn't got it. Hadn't read all the fine print. Okay, thank you
Thanks.
very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you,
you.
Fran. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Good luck with your research.
Yeah, that seems very doable.
and you're a strong man, right, Scott.
the reorganize.
Yes.
Yes, that's on our agenda right now.
Oh, there you go. See.
So first, we have the minutes of June 5th. And let me see, you were absent and Ed was absent. You were not here.
we have
So,
1, 2, 3,
One,
4,
two, three, 1, 2,
Oh,
3, 4, Janet,
5.
5. So that's quorum. So do I have a motion to approve the minutes of June 5th, 2024?
So moved.
That's Dan and Mark. Any conversation, any discussion? All in favor of the June 5th minutes?
Aye.
Aye. 1, 2, 3, 4,
And
Janet?
it says aye. She's got her
Oh,
hand
oh,
up.
oh, I see it. Yeah, I see it now. It looks like you've got it in a cast. Is your arm in a cast?
No.
Oh, it looks
Oh,
like a
please,
cast.
no.
Okay. Okay, so the minutes passed, Dan first, Mark second, 5-0.
Correct.
Now, on to item number 2 on the agenda, nomination of officers for fiscal year 25. Do I have a motion to nominate? We need to have a chair, a vice chair, and a clerk.
I nominate Mary Shaw as chair of this committee.
Second,
That's Dan and Joanna.
Dave's looking like he's volunteering though.
I'm sorry.
All in favor of Mary being the chair?
Aye.
1, 2,
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 7.
Correct.
Because we're missing Eileen,
Eileen,
we're missing Ed.
Ed,
Yeah,
That's correct.
yeah, right. Okay, that's 7. Do I have a nomination? Oh, sorry.
Eileen's the vice chair and Ed's the clerk.
They're not here. Very good.
Do I have a motion for the vice chair? And I'll make a motion for Dan to be the vice chair.
Okay,
Would you like to be the vice chair again?
I will volunteer for that, yeah.
Okay. And do I have a second for,
Second.
let me see, that's Mary and Mark. And that's for Dan. Any discussion? All in favor?
I guess I could
Aye.
vote for myself.
Depends upon whether you want
Well,
the
you
job or
did.
not.
You voted for yourself, so I guess.
And I need to nominate a clerk.
There we go. Now
Who
this
who
one.
would like to
love
be
to be a clerk? You're not hearing anybody. Is there somebody who's not here that would love to be a clerk?
Who was the
I
clerk
think it's
before?
You were.
And I never had to do anything, then I'll do that
All
again.
right, I nominate Joanne to be the clerk.
Stacy, because you
Stacy
do all
does the
the
work.
I
notes,
know.
you just, if there's something, yeah, sure.
Okay, so we have a nomination for Joanna to be the clerk. Do I have a second? Well, put Elaine. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye,
Aye. 7-0.
there you go.
Joanna is now and
Don't
still
change
will
the
be
rules.
The
a clerk. Okay, so we have a chair, a vice chair, and a clerk.
Excellent.
Okay, now we're down to, thanks, everybody. I don't know if I should thank everybody, but I'm thanking everybody. Item number 3, the accounting report, and Tina did pass out
Yep.
the accounting report. And I think the first one that she sent out didn't have the month of July. So she sent out another one, later showing July.
I didn't bring my card.
Oh,
Can I just pick a quick
yeah,
look because I know I had a
sure,
question
yeah.
for something.
So I have some comments, questions, what have you. I'll ask anybody else if they have anything first.
Oh, I think it was just that there's a few, at least one project, there's a few that are closing out
Right.
and then
Yeah.
Until we get the
This is
letter
the
on-
Back,
yeah.
this is the
Yeah,
back of
that,
the front.
the town hall one. used
Yes, yeah,
Everything. Is
it-
it completely done?
Yes, it's
I think it
completely
is,
done.
yeah, okay.
Yeah. I have a price that we paid
Yeah.
for it.
Right. Okay, and then we have already
That's
mentioned that
small.
55
Wanna know what it
is gonna
was?
be Coming back.
Yeah.
So.
I asked
open
Tina,
space.
I had a couple of questions and I asked Tina for some information. And the town hall cost $1,409,178.02. And we had originally agreed to 300,000 way back when.
Correct.
Then they came in again and we agreed to 680, so that's 980. And so the 980 has been used and the additional amount of, is about 412,000 or something like that. Is being paid for out of town funds. I'm not exactly sure where, don't ask me where, but all of our monies have been used and it cost a little over $1.4 million to complete. The,
Now, there's no application for additional funds from them.
that's right, no,
So
no.
we're at this point
We
done
need,
with our commitment.
right, we need to get a
Close
final
out.
report from,
Close
I'm
out.
assuming from Jackie.
Yep.
I'm assuming it's from Jackie.
It would-
Probably from the building inspector, wouldn't they?
Well, Jackie, through
Jackie's
Jackie's office.
Jackie's
Yeah.
office, yeah.
Let's do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So we need a final report from Jackie on the town hall. The other thing I noticed is that we did pay the 7,500 for the Housing Institute for
Mhm.
last year. And we need a final report
Okay.
from them. From CDP. Um,
Is that for 2 years or is that
One.
every year?
That's
the
what-
7,005 was for a year ago, and last year they asked us for 10,000. And so right now, we have for fiscal year 25, a $10,000 figure in there for the Institute. Nothing has been taken from that yet for this coming year. Also, if you look, as we've discussed, we put the 400,000 into the reserve for affordable housing. So if you're looking at, oh, everybody doesn't have the forms here, but if you're looking at the cash balance, you'll look at affordable housing and you'll see that the reserve is now 437,655.03, and that's the 400,000 that we agreed to last year is in that designated fund. Let's see, we've earned $133,000 in interest.
Very nice.
Yeah, and I would assuming the interest rates stay high, I'm not sure that that's going to be the case because they're talking about lowering it.
They're gonna lower it.
But, last year, we earned 57,000 in interest. This year it was 133. So, we'll see what happens this coming year. But, that's one good piece of news. It's my understanding that we fully paid Jen Goldson for the 5-year plan. And that came to exactly what the agreement was, and that was the 49,957. So I don't know whether we, do we get that, any sort of statement from, or just, I mean, we've paid, it's my understanding that all the bills have been paid, so I
Yes.
have to confirm that, but
Do we need a paper closeout?
yeah, paper closeout.
I don't
I'll
know
ask
whether we need
Paul.
all this, yeah,
Ask Paul what,
if we need it.
Yep.
if we need something, let me see, the tax collections are, as we've discussed earlier, they're about $1 million. Based on our assessed value of our real estate in town. And that's been the case for the last 2 years. I'm just wondering if there's anything else. Does anybody have any questions on anything that they've looked over that I haven't mentioned? Okay. So we will be on to that. And we talked about, under 3, we've talked about project status, so there are a couple of things that we need to get signed off on, final reports on. And maybe you should get in touch, just confirm with Francis on the
Okay.
one that we weren't aware of until tonight, the 5,000 on the Sandy Meadow.
Well, yeah, Karen Strauss was
Oh,
gonna do
okay.
that, but Francis will let Karen know where to find the form and.
Yeah,
we have
and
a
get that
meeting.
done. Yeah.
Our meeting is next week.
And the project closeouts, we've talked about that. And the other thing I want to mention, the final reports, if you remember last year, we did order and get some new CPA signs. And I think we got 12 new signs. We had a couple left over. And Stacy's gone out to a couple of places to make sure that the signs are put up. But I think we haven't done that for the lighthouse. Did you go to the lighthouse, Stacy, to?
I gave a list of places to the DPW that we needed signs.
Oh,
and The
oh.
Lighthouse was one of them.
Oh, okay.
Wiley Park, for
Okay.
some reason, there was
sh-
nothing there for the playground
Oh,
or
the shade
shade
shelter.
shelter.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't think there's one right out here for the Field of Dreams.
no, it was taken down when they.
When they were doing
yeah,
when they
and
were
it
doing
never
it,
got put
and
up.
they
That
never
was on
put-
the list
that-
to do. I
that's
gave
got-
them a list of 6 or 7
Oh,
places
okay.
that needed
Okay.
signs.
Okay. Could you just give us that list?
Sure.
When you have a chance? Yeah. Okay. And I have a question. When we do things that are inside, in other words, the CPA folk gave the library monies for the humidity control for our Eastham room. We have a CPA sign outside because they also gave us 75,000 for the restoration, preservation of the old part of the building there. But what if we just do something that's inside?
A smaller scale sign
What
or.
are people's thoughts on? Yeah,
I don't think you need to worry about a few indoor things. I think the outside one at the library, I think is enough.
mhm.
That's just my general feeling. To put a sign in the Eastham room said we
Oh,
pay
oh,
for
no, yeah,
humidity
yeah,
control or just.
Yeah,
just
yeah,
as
no,
example.
I was just, and the CPA sign outside would cover,
Yeah,
I would, from my
Right.
perspective.
I guess
would
it
cover
depends
the-
on what
the
inside
humidity
project,
control.
because some might be
But-
appropriate for a
and
sign.
it Might be, yeah. Well,
So I
I
think
suppose we
it'd
can
be-
always put something outside, even if it's done
Depend on-
inside.
I think
What it is.
the fact that we gave money is acknowledged in the sign, whether it's inside or
Yeah,
outside.
outside, yeah.
So I guess
Yeah.
the situation could arise where we did something inside, not outside,
right.
but we would still put a sign outside.
Yeah, yeah.
Is there
Right.
a-
Yeah. The point is,
Yeah,
people
I-
know.
Yeah.
Wrote that down.
Yep.
Just was
Okay.
curious.
Yeah, we gave
I'm
money
sorry, what
to,
did you say, Dave?
I was wondering if there was one at the Methodist church for the
Oh,
bathroom.
for the bathroom.
And Chapel in the
And the
Pines.
chapel
Oh,
in the
Chapel
Pines,
Pines,
yeah.
yeah.
I think the chapel in the
Chapel
Pines.
Pines has
does
a
have
C,
one.
yeah.
Yeah,
it
but the
does.
Methodist church one is inside and that was $20,000.
I'll check on that.
Hmm.
Yeah, I haven't.
I've never been
there
in there, never used the bathroom.
Did you go near the wall?
Before they had the bath.
Okay, oh, and I had a question for Ed, but he's not here. The Wiley Park Shade Shelter, seems to me that there's only 2,000 left and I'm thinking that it's got to be, I haven't been over there lately, but I'm
Yeah,
sure it's
I
finished.
think it's
so
done.
We should get,
Yeah,
maybe
I-
get in touch with Ed to,
Yep.
do the final report on the Wiley Park, shade shelter.
And a closeout if it's
Yeah.
applicable.
Yeah.
Is this, the Field of Dreams, is that totally done now, or are we still messing around with some of the dugouts and things?
Oh,
I
The
think
Ed
there's still,
would Be able to answer it, I couldn't.
there's still monies in here.
Yeah, there is.
yeah, there's still 62.
Field of, yeah, there's
No, that's
20,
the-
there's 20,000 left in the fiscal year 19 project, Field of Dreams. Yeah,
That's gone on forever.
yeah, that is. Yeah, that was originally 71,000 and they've spent 50. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let me see, other business. We brought up the CPA sign, so we'll be checking on that. And let me see, I asked Tina if we had paid the coalition
No, I
dues.
should have put that on the agenda. I have the invoice.
Okay, because I
asked
have the
Paul-
invoice too, but,
I asked Paul if I should just pay it, or did you all want to vote on paying it? He
Okay,
said to
I-
wait till the meeting.
okay, so you'll have it on the agenda for the
Or,
next.
or.
It could be new business.
It can be new.
Yeah.
Yeah,
put it underneath
okay,
So I
okay.
can get that entered
Yeah.
and paid.
Okay, because it's, we have received it and
Yeah.
we received it in July and it's the $3,500 for the coalition. It's the same amount that we paid last year.
Right.
And I think it's worth it. We've had a number of webinars and we
Yeah.
go to them with questions and
Yeah.
so forth and so on. So, do I have a motion to approve the payment of $3,500 to the Community Preservation Coalition for the dues for fiscal year 25?
Moved.
So moved.
Okay, so that's, move Joanna made the, do I have a second?
Second.
Oh, Janet?
Janet's a-
Janet,
Janet.
okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye,
Aye.
7-0. Let's say
Does
seven.
that come out of administrative funds?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Just
mhm,
Curious.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep, it does, yeah. Oh, and the other thing, I have under old new business or whatever you want to call it. Is last year we had, and I think it's helpful, we had the schedule.
I'll do that.
And we need to put one together for this year. And I know we don't know exactly at this point which or what we'll be getting as far as projects are concerned, but just to.
I did book extra meetings in the same months that we used this year. I think it was
Okay.
like
Oh,
January
okay.
and February.
Okay,
Just as placeholders, so we didn't lose the room.
yeah, okay, okay. And I guess, my other thing is, can you give us an update on what's going on with the Schoolhouse Museum?
The schoolhouse there, hopefully getting the final bid and the final paperwork. They're hoping to start within 2 months, I want to say, hopefully a month. They, with all the contractors, they went through, they got a pretty good contractor, should be done in 7 months from when he starts.
Hmm.
And they're working slowly on fundraising to, offset some of this. So.
Do they have anything in particular that they're planning on doing as far as fundraising is concerned? I mean, I know I've met with
Right.
with all of you
Yeah,
to talk about what we did
I
with the
think-
library.
I think they're gonna start with a letter to all the,
People that,
all the members,
Mhm.
and then they're gonna go from there.
Mhm.
And they're trying to, part of the thing too is like, when do you send it out? When do you collect your dues? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
The timing and all that, so that's what they're working on now, and that's picked up some speed since
Mhm.
we
Good.
last talked.
Yeah, good.
But anyway, it's looking good, like it could be done by like next June.
Mhm. Oh, before the summer months so that you could be
Think so,
used.
right
I'm sure
about
you'd
that.
probably like to have it done in time to set things up so that you can be using it for the summer
Right. And
time.
it'll be quite fabulous when it's done.
Mhm.
Market Daily does a great job inside. With all the historical things, and
Mhm.
she's the archivist and does a
Mhm.
fabulous job, so.
Okay, so I don't have anything else under other business. Is anybody, Dave?
We had administrative funds last year, and did we use them all up? Or do we have a balance that we need to put back into the kitty?
They automatically.
They automatically go back, yeah.
Yeah,
Anything
yeah,
left.
yeah,
We
I-
had the 5-year plan last year, which was.
yeah,
Significant, 50 grand.
Right.
yeah, significant, yeah. And we also have the 40,000 from the prior year for help. It goes to the general fund for support. And I can tell you, let me see. I'm looking at the wrong thing. Administrative is 62,590 for the coming year. Yeah. Okay, is anything else that people would like to discuss?
I did have a meeting with Paul today on something unrelated. But the project with the kiosk came up
Mm.
and we have to look into seeing if that's a support. And if so, it's not allowable.
Right.
Mhm.
But we
Yeah,
have
I-
to see how we can make it fit.
Yeah, other towns have used CPA funds for similar. And
Okay.
in fact, I think Orleans did,
Did you-
so it
okay.
qualified.
Maybe I'll see if I can
Right.
see what their application.
Right.
is.
And interestingly, I thought this was more surprising because it's not management. It's like a educational,
Mhm.
something. And Wiley Park wasn't purchased with CPA funds. So that's, if it had been like the Higgins property, you
Yeah.
could do it because it
Yeah.
was purchased with CPA funds. But the other thing that I came across that Orleans got the CPA to fund was brochures for the trust, the Orleans Conservation Trust, which are, with their trails on and all this information, but I thought that was interesting. Our open space committee, which is the town committee, is working on these, trail, like not just the kiosk, but signage at Sandy Meadow and other places that have trail maps. And we have trail maps already on the website, but they need updating. And we've had volunteers from the group doing the arrows, those metallic arrows, redoing those on all the things. So it's interesting what CPA funds can support.
Right.
But you have to, I think the kiosk though should be fine. Because it's not management, it's not ongoing management. They don't want you to, like, if this land management plan says you have to mow this every year,
Yeah, that's not
CPA
covered.
can't do that.
Right, right.
So, but this is hopefully it'll apply.
Okay, any other comments, questions, concerns, what have you? And our next meeting, we didn't have that on the agenda. Our next meeting would be, let me see.
October 2nd.
October,
Second,
let me see, yeah. What's the
my
first?
high-tech
is the first-
calendar here. Made myself. October, I think this is the right year. 2020. October 2nd.
October 2nd?
Mary, this is Wayne. Janet has her hand raised.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Wayne. Janet,
Hi.
Hi.
I got to the meeting a little late because my doctor's appointment went along later,
Oh,
along.
I'm glad you're able to
later than I
join us.
thought. Anyway, I don't know whether anyone commented about this, and I'm not sure if it's terribly appropriate, but I want to say that I am so impressed with how Town Hall looks. Both the building, the brick, the trim, the landscaping, and over the months that they were working on it, I saw different people working on it and always seemed very competent. And I'm just very impressed with how it looks. I think our town looks so much better because of it, and I'm glad that CPA could fund it. Thank you.
Very good.
Yeah, thank you. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Dan, do I have a second?
Second.
Dave? All in favor of adjourning? I have 6:13.